shops and other gaming establishments remain banned. Valenzuela City Mayor Rex Gatchalian supports the shift, saying this will give the economy a chance to further rally, while Mandaluyong Mayor Benji Abalos says the decision is based on experts' recommendations. Pasay Mayor Emmy Calixto Rubiano, meanwhile, says the city has an improving COVID-19 situation and the local government continues to ramp up vaccination. Last week, two other mayors, Joy Belmonte of Quezon City and Francis Zamora of San Juan, said they wanted to keep alert level 3 in Metro Manila until cases drop further. The controversial no vaccine, no ride policy comes to a halt in Metro Manila beginning tomorrow. Transportation spokesperson Goddess Libiran confirms the lifting or suspension of the policy is automatic under alert level 2. A number of groups called for a halt to the policy, calling it discriminatory and illegal. The OTR said it imposed a restriction to prevent a public transport shutdown amid surging COVID-19 cases. Also beginning tomorrow, inbound balikbayans and international travelers are no longer required to undergo quarantine. But Tristan Odalo reports there are concerns about the relaxed rule.
The government is standing by its decision to scrap the mandatory facility-based quarantine for fully vaccinated returning overseas Filipinos beginning February 1. This would immediately be followed by the entry of fully vaccinated foreign tourists from over 150 visa-free countries on February 10.
Gaya ng mga returning Filipinos no longer required to undergo quarantine. Our confidence to ease travel restrictions comes from various initiatives undertaken over the last 2 years.
Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat adds that the latest interagency task force decisions were backed by government panel of experts. The Bureau of Quarantine meantime says there are safety measures in place to protect the borders, but the burden now will shift from the agency to local government units.
We still have the safety net of allowing only the fully vaccinated travelers plus the 48 hours RT-PCR negative result tests for them. But now, really, the burden would be with the LGUs. The burden would be on them because of the mandate that this traveler would go straight to their home LGUs.
Health reform advocate Dr. Tony Liachon highlights that the latest protocols may trigger future disaster in the government's COVID-19 response. Liachon indicates some red flags on why it is not yet right to remove border protection measures.
Worry lang natin, wala tayong medical safeguard. While other countries are living with the virus, but they did not actually abandon the basic playbook, which is actually testing, tracing, and isolating quarantine. Without the testings, you will not be able to isolate and contact trace.
He adds that the latest IATF resolutions only legalizes the protocol violations committed by the infamous Poblacion girl. Senator Nancy Binay also criticizes the removal of quarantine requirements for international travelers. The senator adds that without medical safeguards, monitoring, and contact tracing, the abrupt lifting of quarantine measures increases public risks. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
Health experts note Johnson & Johnson's Janssen vaccine is also an effective booster shot, even on the highly contagious Omicron variant. A study by the government vaccine expert panel revealed the single-dose vaccine is 85% effective against hospitalization 14 days after getting the shot. Another study also showed the Janssen booster is effective as Pfizer in producing more antibodies in 2 weeks.
There's an early decoupling of data. Ibig sabihin, tumaas man yung Omicron, pero yung kanilang hospitalizations ay bumaba, yung mga severe and critical cases.
It looks like Janssen is doing a pretty good job with its vaccine efficacy against the Omicron variant, especially dun sa Omicron wave. So hindi pa natin nakikita kasi hihimayin mo yun eh. Pag tinignan mo yung vaccine efficacy, mataas pa rin siya for J&J.
Regulators have approved Janssen for use as a booster dose, but the government still not administering the brand due to logistical concerns. Meanwhile, experts say Janssen, AstraZeneca, and Pfizer give higher protection than Sinovac when used as booster for those who receive the China-made vaccine as a primary dose. Now, tomorrow we welcome the Year of the Water Dragon, Chinese New Year, but public festivities in Manila are still cancelled despite the downgrade to alert level 2. Our senior correspondent David Santos visits Chinatown.
Streets are decorated with red lanterns in the world's oldest Chinatown. But for the second straight year, public celebrations for the Chinese New Year are canceled. Performances that draw big crowds like lion and dragon dances are banned, and so are firecrackers and fireworks display. Sale of liquor is also not allowed.
Pwede pa rin sila makapamasyal sa Binondo. Pwede namang may festivities in their respective homes, no?
The crowd may be relatively smaller here in Binondo compared to previous years, but there's no stopping Filipinos, especially the Filipino-Chinese community, from keeping the traditions of their Chinese ancestors alive. Patrons continue to flock shops selling Lucky Charms along Ongpin Street. Hanging ornaments for doors of homes and businesses still enjoy brisk sales. The cheapest ones, with the tiger accessory, since it's the year of the tiger in Chinese astrology, are sold at 50 to 80 pesos each. These ornaments for prosperity are also being peddled in the streets: ginger, taro, mandarin orange, and pineapple.
Kasi ang pinya, maraming mata, di ba? Parang bantay sa mga kanba na monitor niya yung parang CCTV, na monitor niya yung mga masasamang espiritu.
To fight off illnesses, there's the golden wulu or holo for good health. Others want charms to counter bad luck. Some seek feng shui tips for an auspicious year.
Kasi pandemic, honestly, our business is kind of affected. So, to get rid of the negative side.
Maganda naman, magaang sa dating ng biyaya.
Wala naman kasi masama kung maniwala ka di ba?
And of course, loads of food from hopia, dumplings, round fruits, and tikoy, which according to this one vendor, sales have yet to pick up.
Kasi kung dati, walang pandemya, mga ganitong araw, humahataw na po kami. Kasi yung mga taga-ibang lugar po, may mga suki kami taga Laguna, Cavite, Batangas, talagang lumuluwas sila, bumibili ng maramihan.
Kailangan ituloy natin siya para at least ma-feel man lang natin na kahit may pandemic, we still have the positivity to continue on with our lives.
But more than the traditions, hard work and discipline and having a strong faith, many believe will bring us through in any adversity. David Santos, CNN Philippines.
World headlines now. 37 more Olympic personnel tested positive for COVID-19 days before the Beijing Winter Games, among them athletes and team officials. The Beijing Organizing Committee says 28 persons tested positive for COVID-19 upon arrival at the airport, while the remaining 9 were already inside the closed-loop system designated for participants and staff. 176 Olympic personnel have caught COVID-19. The Beijing Games will begin on Friday, February 4th. North Korea has fired its longest-range ballistic missile in 5 years. Officials report the Hwasong-12 missile reached a height of 2,000 kilometers and a range of 800 kilometers before falling into the waters of the Korean Peninsula on Sunday. North Korea says the launch was just a test fire to inspect the ground-to-ground missile and check the accuracy of the weapon system. It is Pyongyang's 6th ballistic missile this year and its longest test since 2017. And in the United States, former President Donald Trump hinting at a possible second term. Trump says if he wins in 2024, he would consider pardoning those who were charged in connection with the deadly attack at the U.S. Capitol January 6th last year. He says writers are being treated, quote, so unfairly. The U.S. Justice Department has charged over 700 people linked to the U.S. Capitol riot. Up next on Newsnight, lawyers recommend estafa charges against a number of family officials that spare some familiar names linked to the controversial deal with a medical supplier. And an update on Rowena Guanzon's public dispute with fellow Comelec Commissioner Amy Ferrolino on the Marcos disqualification case. Keep it here on CNN Philippines.
pandemic, serving others is the best. Sa pagtutulungan, patuloy ang ating laban sa buhay. Kaya dapat always healthy. With proper diet, exercise, and MX3 Coffee Mix to ignite my day. Hi guys! Lagi akong focus, active, at extraordinary. Because the most important things in life deserve nothing less. MX3 Coffee Mix, my choice.
Sure ka ba talaga dito?
Ano ka ba? Mabait si Papa. Pa! Si Pinky po.
Paano po, Mr. Fardo? Please, call me sir.
Aba, laki ng supermarket dito ah. Bili tayo ng drinks. Ako na po ang drinks. Sige na. Gutom na ako. Kuha na mga kami, Mike. So, paano? Mabiyahe pa tayo.
Sir, hatid ko na po kayo.
Central Hub yan. Develop na tong part ng Tarlac ah.
Sir, sagot ko na po ito.
Tingin mo sa akin. Cheap?
Sir, hindi po.
Joke lang.
Sir, pwede na po ako.
Thanks. Next time ulit ah. Miggy.
That's fun! Woo!
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. The House Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability has recommended the filing of syndicated estafa charges against 6 officials of Pharmally Pharmaceutical. This even as the panel found there was no overpricing in the multi-billion peso purchase of COVID-19 supplies. The Pharmally officials recommended to be charged are its president, Wang Tzu-yen, director Lincoln Ong, siblings Mohit and Twinkle Dargani, Justine Garado, and Crizel Grace Mago. The committee says they should be held liable for getting supply contracts even if they were grossly unqualified to do so. The panel also recommended charges of falsification of public documents against George Mendoza and Mervyn Ian Tankitik of the Budget Department's Procurement Service. House Committee Chairman Michael Aglipay said there was not enough evidence to sue former Presidential Economic Advisor Michael Yang to sue or to recommend charges, and ex-DBM Undersecretary Lloyd Christopher Lau both linked to the controversial deal.
Ang sagot ko po dyan sa tanong nyo kay Michael Yang at kay Christopher Lau, insufficiency of evidence. The evidence does not warrant or is not enough for cases to hold.
The House panel also recommended that DBM's procurement service be abolished since all government agencies have their own procurement department. Meantime, Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Rich Gordon has yet to release a preliminary report on their own investigation. He announced last week that he will present the initial findings today, but it was not on the agenda of the plenary session. No reconciliation in sight between 2 commissioners in the COMELEC's First Division over the supposedly delayed decision on the Marcos disqualification cases. But Chairman Sharif Abbas sees no need to step in. Melissa Lopez joins us live from COMELEC's headquarters in Manila for updates. Mel?
PR retiring Commissioner Rowena Guanzon today released her separate opinion, which discussed why she voted to disqualify Bongbong Marcos from the presidential race, even though her colleague has yet to draft the official decision. Breaking convention, Guanzon released to media a 24-page document discussing why she thought the former senator should not be allowed to run. while she sided with the Marcos camp in shooting down petitioners to say that Marcos was not sentenced to jail nor deemed perpetually disqualified from holding any government post due to his tax conviction. Guanzon says Marcos's failure to file income tax returns for 4 straight years while he was Ilocos Norte vice governor and eventually governor was a crime of moral turpitude or against good behavior, which is one of the grounds to reject a candidate. Without his ITRs on record, Guanzon says Marcos robbed government with the opportunity to check if he paid the right amount of taxes. Guanzon began the day with a mass joined by a number of supporters clad in purple. But even that did not stop her from targeting decision writer Amy Ferolino again. She says Ferolino is part of a conspiracy to invalidate her vote against Marcos.
Kung ang kabagalan ni Commissioner Ferolino sa pagsusulat ay dahil mabagal po siya magsulat, may problema po siya sa kakayahan niya. Hindi siya dapat nag-commissioner. Kung hindi pala siya, hindi niya kayang sumulat ng desisyon sa loob ng 7 o 15 diyas. Kaya sinasabi ko, Commissioner Ferolino, sagutin na natin ang taong bayan. Kung hindi ka nasuhulan, ilabas mo na ang resolusyon bago ako mag-retire.
Guanzon believes Ferolino is deliberately delaying the release of the Marcos decision beyond her retirement on Wednesday, February 2nd. She also calls upon Chairman Sharif Abbas, who is also retiring this week, to intervene. But the chairman is not giving in.
It's a division problem, right? So at this point, there's really no need for this to go outside of the division. The decision of a commissioner is not binding on the decision of anyone else as an individual. Ultimately, ang titingnan natin yung collegial decision, which is embodied in the ponente, no, in the ponensya, in the main decision. So yun talagang hihintayin natin.
Jimenez adds Guanzon's vote loses relevance in terms of the actual decision on the Marcos cases beyond February 2nd. Meanwhile, in the latest development, Ferolino responded with her own memorandum addressed to Guanzon this afternoon. She says she has nothing to explain because she insists there is no delay in the release of a decision. She also pleaded for Guanzon to stop her public attacks as she is, quote, destroying the credibility of COMELEC through her allegations. Back to you, Pia.
Talk to us, Mel, about the possible scenarios for Bongbong's candidacy with these unresolved cases as of now.
Yeah, so COMELEC spokesman James Jimenez actually floated 3 scenarios. First, Marcos can continue with his campaign activities at the time that the disqualification cases are pending. Anytime that the decision is not final means he will continue to be treated as a candidate. Second, if Bongbong is disqualified anytime until just before the proclamation of winners in the race, his votes will not be counted. Instead, it will be considered stray, although he has this option to nominate a substitute, provided that person has the same surname, Marcos, and comes from the same party. That can be availed until noon of May 9. And third, if he wins the race, he is proclaimed as president but gets disqualified after, it's already the rule of succession which will apply, which means the vice president will take over. Back to you, Pia.
Melissa Lopez there reporting. The Philippine National Police now validating a threat to assassinate presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos, which was posted on social media app TikTok. PNP Chief General Jonard Carlos says a representative of Marcos is already in touch with them and that they would act based on their validation. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara had earlier said the National Bureau of Investigation is now probing this supposed assassination plot. Marcos' spokesperson praised the NBI for its swift action on the threat and said the former senator is not scared. IWA, the Kabataan party list, which was featured in the TikTok post, denies any involvement. The group, as well as the Akbayan party list, sees the supposed assassination plot as a ploy to distract the public from the Marcos disqualification cases. Presidential aspirants take a stand on more issues as the elections draw near. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno says he will not allow the International Criminal Court to prosecute President Duterte for alleged abuses under the administration's bloody drug war. Moreno argued the ICC cannot prosecute in a country where there is a working justice system. Senator Manny Pacquiao clarifies his earlier statement that cited laziness as the reason why he was the top absentee at the House of Representatives during his term there. Pacquiao, who represented the Lone District of Sarangani from 2010 to 2016, says he only got lazy when there was nothing to do in Congress. He notes he was better off using his time to oversee the construction of homes for the poor. Senator Ping Lacson says there will be no crony capitalism if he is elected president. He vowed to stop the culture of giving undue advantage to political or business associates who helped finance the bid of aspirants. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos says he will neither be for or against the U.S. or China if elected president. He also noted the need to appoint a foreign affairs chief who is well-versed in diplomatic affairs. As the Philippines walks a fine line between the two powers, Marcos notes the country has special ties with the United States that will endure, quote, all through our lifetime, while Manila, he says, has a good relationship with Beijing. Labor leader Carl Yordi de Guzman protested with farmers outside the Senate against a regional trade deal which the chamber could ratify soon. De Guzman says removing taxes on imported products would put the agriculture sector at a disadvantage. And Vice President Lenny Robredo wants to amend the Public Service Act to do away with congressional franchises for telecommunication companies. She says this is the #1 hindrance for telcos planning to invest in the country. Still ahead on Newsnight, the national football team makes the country proud after earning the Philippines' first ticket to the FIFA Women's World Cup. And from the latest horror and action films, we look at which blockbusters remain at the top of the U.S. box office. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines.
Ang soulmate ko? Entrasol Platinum.
With ProCare Formula, it has high protein, high fiber, high calcium with vitamins and minerals to help nourish the body and to support the daily needs of adult nutritional supplementation.
Entrasol Platinum. Get more, be more.
Sure ka ba talaga dito?
Ano ka ba? Mabait si Papa. Pa! Si Miggy po.
Mano po, Mr. Fardo?
Please, call me sir. Aba, laki ng supermarket dito ah. Bili tayo ng drinks. Ako na po ang drinks. Sige na. Gutom na ako. Kuha na mga kami, Mike. Sold. Paano? Pabiyahe pa tayo.
Sir, hatid ko na po kayo.
Central Hub yan. Develop na tong part ng Tarlac ah.
Sir, sagot ko na po ito.
Tingin mo sa akin. Cheap?
Sir, hindi po.
Joke lang.
Sir, pwede na po ako.
Thanks. Next time ulit. Miggy.
Next time. Woo!
Amid the darkness, look on the bright side. It has never been this good for Philippine golf. The country was able to send its best golfers to the last two Olympics and clinched a major championship. First, Miguel Tabuena competed in Rio 2016, followed by Bianca Pagdanganan and Filipino-Japanese golf sensation Yuka Saso in Tokyo 2020. Months before Tokyo, Yuka won the prestigious U.S. Women's Open. With Philippine golfers breaking through on a global stage, the country's golfing community thrived and became vibrant.
It's always an honor to play for the flag. There's always a different feel of playing for something bigger than yourself.
It's really great to see how much golf has taken off, especially last year. It was a tough year for everyone, but I think golf is one of the sports where you could implement safety protocols.
Since 2005, International Container Terminal Services Incorporated, or ICTSI, has been supporting the training of Filipino golfers, including the staging of pro circuits by Pilipinas Golf.
ICTSI and PGT, LPGT are doing a great job providing the professional golfers to have a tour in Philippines.
Me, Yuka, and Bianca would 100% agree that we wouldn't be where we are now without ICTSI.
Over the years, golf greats like Jennifer Rosales and Frankie Mendoza and current superstars like Yuka, Bianca, and Miguel have gotten support from ICTSI and Pilipinas Golf, helping them achieve their goals, including the promotion of Philippine golf worldwide. With ICTSI's support, golf is the silver lining in Philippine sports. I'm Sam Sidwani, CNN Philippines.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. An eventful weekend in sports with the national women's football team making history, or rather her story. For the first time ever, the Philippines is heading to the FIFA Women's World Cup after beating Chinese Taipei on penalties in the AFC Women's Asian Cup quarterfinals. The team will face South Korea in the semifinals on Thursday. Players Cam Rodriguez and Ina Palacios told CNN Philippines Sports Desk how it feels to compete for the World Cup soon, and if they think a podium finish is likely.
Last night, medyo parang it just felt like a game, but waking up today and knowing that we're in the World Cup, no words for it. It's every footballer's dream.
Our biggest asset as a team is our defense, and we'll work through that, and I know everyone will be disciplined. In the next, I will claim it, 2 games that we'll have, it's possible. We can, and we probably will, and I won't be surprised if we do, because of the heart that we have, the passion that we have.
The Australian Open Finals yesterday also seeing a record-breaking milestone. Tennis superstar Rafael Nadal, now the sole record holder for the most career men's singles Grand Slam titles. This is Nadal's 21st major championship, breaking a tie for the most all-time with his rivals Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic. The Spanish athlete won the title after a grueling 5-set battle with Daniil Medvedev. And the U.S. box office, meanwhile, had a quiet weekend with January coming to a close. And as it turns out, it was another easy top spot on the charts for this superhero film. CNN's David Daniel reports.
$1.8 million kept The King's Man in 5th place. Redeeming Love managed to stay in 4th, earning $1.9 million. Sing 2 is up to $135 million domestic after a 3rd place weekend worth $4.8 million. Scream settled for 2nd place, scaring up $7.4 million.
They're a danger to our universe.
Nothing can stop Spider-Man No Way Home. The blockbuster made another $11 million for a domestic total of $736 million, closing in on Avatar for 3rd place on the all-time chart. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And that's it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
RPN Regional AM radio stations nationwide welcomes CNN Philippines, a first on radio, to bring you the latest news you can use, news you can trust. Listen to Newsnight, weekdays, 6 p.m.
And I'll go above and beyond the headlines.
Followed by Med Talk, Health Talk.
We'll talk about how to keep ourselves healthy during the pandemic.
Politics as usual.
Our guests for tonight, 2 political science professors.
Up close and more. Catch CNN Philippines in all RPN AM radio stations. Weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m. CNN Philippines Hour.
DYKB Radio Ronda.
When it comes to our metabolism, we often associate it with exercise, weight gain, and age. We also think about how fast or slow it is, because a slow metabolism could put us at risk of excessive weight gain or obesity. But the strict quarantine and safety protocols have made it quite challenging to move around and get the physical exercise that we need. On the program today, we'll talk more about metabolism and how to raise it during this time of COVID-19. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Metabolism is the process in which our bodies convert what we eat and drink into energy. What are practical ways to boost our metabolism in today's reality? Let's welcome our guests for today. With us is Dr. Eduardo Yambao Jr. He's a cardiologist from St. Luke's Medical Center and the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Also with us is Dr. Roberto Mirasol, who's an endocrinologist from St. Luke's Medical Center and Manila Doctors Hospital. Thank you both for joining us once again on the program. Let's start this very interesting discussion. I'll start first kay Dr. Bob. Could you discuss the impact of obesity on our health? You know, it's really a growing problem here at home, and the condition can leave us vulnerable to a number of serious health problems.
That's very true, Dr. Freddy. In fact, obesity is increasing in the Philippines right now. Among Filipinos, it's about 26% overweight and obesity as of recent statistics. It has been shown that a lot of complications are associated also with being overweight or obese. First and foremost would be an increase of risk for diabetes, hypertension. These are chronic diseases. You also have an increased risk of strokes for patients who have been overweight and obese. And of course, pulmonary problems being associated with overweight, sleep apnea, an increase of gallstones as well.
Recent research also suggests that obese people are 80 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than those with a normal body mass index. Dr. Ed, how does this happen? 80 times more likely. That's a very big number.
Yeah, that's quite big. And Dr. Freddy, because in obese patients, there is an increased amount of inflammatory markers and other substances that leads to insulin resistance or the inability of the body to use the blood sugar. Insulin resistance can cause destruction of the beta cells of the pancreas, which is the one that produces insulin. And this in long term can lead to diabetes.
Okay. Now, a recent study by the WHO says that COVID-19 patients with obesity are more likely to experience severe outcomes or severe symptoms. Dr. Bob, tell us more about this. And do we have to worry about severe COVID if we've experienced excessive weight gain?
Yes, we're seeing a lot of our COVID patients who are obese and actually practically not doing very well. In fact, these are the patients who actually have a lot of complications from the COVID illness. And there are several reasons for that. One is perhaps these patients also have diabetes and also have hypertension and cardiovascular disease. So they're more prone to illness and more prone to problems with COVID-19. And has been also shown that most patients will have greater ventilator days. They will be intubated more. They're obese or overweight because their pulmonary function is actually affected when you're obese. And this is associated with increased risk of ventilator days for our patients, intubated, and more toxic or more complicated cases of COVID-19.
In order to do that, let's talk about the processes that make up our metabolism or how it makes it happen or how our bodies expend energy for that matter. Now, it can be broken down into basically two, which is catabolism and anabolism. Dr. Ed, let's briefly explain what catabolism is.
Catabolism is the breakdown of complex nutrients into simple ones. This leads to production of energy and power that we can use in our day-to-day activities.
Okay, so catabolism occurs when we digest food. Now, Dr. Bob, what happens when our bodies don't get the food or fuel that is needed?
So when we don't eat the food that we're supposed to take in, what happens is you develop low blood sugars. And these low blood sugars will now elicit a response of increase of your what we call hormones, such as adrenaline and steroids to increase your blood sugars. The next step would be to burn your substitute, which is your fats.
Now, on the other side of the spectrum naman, or of the process, is anabolism. Dr. Bob, tell us naman about what anabolism is.
Anabolism is when it generates when you need energy and you form cells. That is anabolism. And there are certain hormones which are responsible for anabolism. Growth hormone is one of them. The second would be your insulin, and then also estrogen and testosterone. All of these hormones lead to increase of cells and will make your metabolism of your body.
Dr. Ed, gaano ka-importante itong mga hormones na to, and how can our viewers make sure that these hormones are in balance or in check?
Okay, these hormones are very important because it regulates our body function. If one is more than the usual number that is needed in our body, it can lead to certain dysfunctions. And our patients should look into some telltale signs that they have hormonal imbalances. This could include problems with concentration, sudden weight gain or sudden weight loss. And these are the signs that our hormones are not in tune and should prompt our patients to consult their doctors.
Yes, that's correct. Now, there are many factors that can affect our metabolic rate or the rate of metabolism. When we return, we'll go through some of them and the most important ones. Stay with us on MedTalk Health Talk, only on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where caring is our calling. We all need energy to work, to think, to move. Our body requires a certain number of calories to keep it functioning while performing these basic functions in order to stay alive. Dr. Ed, what should our viewers understand, or what is important to know about someone's basal metabolic rate?
Knowing one's metabolic rate is important to achieve one's weight goal, whether the goal is to maintain, to lose, or gain weight. The metabolic rate is one of the factors that determine the amount of calories one should be consuming in order to achieve this goal. Like, for example, if a person wanted to lose weight, then he will need to eat less than his basal metabolic rate or maintenance calories.
Now, this question is for Dr. Bob. Can you share with us some of the activities that can boost someone's metabolism?
Yes, we need to make our patients move and exercise. It's one way to make increase the metabolism of our patients. Actually, even just by mere fact that you are standing is also expending a lot of calories, and standing more will increase your calories. Also, walking more, I think, will increase your calories and speed up your metabolism as well. And there are also certain instances wherein there's a way to eat. So if you eat properly, such as eat proteins, this can also increase your metabolic rate. Drink a lot of water. This can also increase your metabolic rate. Also eat a well-balanced diet.
That was good that you mentioned the activities, but I'd like to talk about the heart for really quickly, because a lot of people out there may seem that in order to get some good benefits to increase one's metabolism, kailangan maximum heart rate palagi when it comes to physical activity. Is this the case? Is this true?
No, it's actually pwede siyang short burst, what we call high-intensity training, short burst of intensive exercise, and then burst of activity. This will increase the metabolism faster.
Yes, that's right. So it doesn't really need that much intensity to get good benefits, especially for your heart. Now, there are also some other factors that can affect one's basal metabolic rate, and one of those is genetics. Dr. Ed, is that the be-all and end-all kapag mababa ang metabolism ng isang tao, ganun na siya habang buhay?
Basal metabolic rate varies between people. Some have a faster metabolic rate than others. And these variations in metabolic rate and even body weight can be due to some variants in the person's DNA, which means that genetics do have a role in a person's metabolism.
Bakit kapag mas tumatanda isang tao, Dr. Ed, mas bumabagal din ang metabolism niya? And what can we do about this?
Okay, as one age, the amount of muscle mass, which is an important organ that consumes our energy, decreases. And usually, there's also an increase in the fats in the body when one grows old. And these factors can lead to a slower metabolic rate. But we can do something about this, like diet can also have a role in metabolism as well as physical activity.
Now let's go on to what we can do to boost our metabolism. And one factor that we should talk about is the diet. Dr. Bob, umpisahan natin, what can people eat?
The protein and fat will increase the metabolism. And these are building blocks of our muscles, and we all know that protein is very important. The second would be to take a lot of water, especially cold water. Some studies have shown that also caffeine in coffee or tea, of course not in excess, can also boost your metabolism.
Now, there are several studies that suggest that inadequate sleep can lower our metabolic rate and increase our likelihood to gain weight. But in today's reality, sleep might be hard to come by with COVID-19 related stressors. Dr. Bob, what are some practical tips that you can share with our viewers for them to get high quality sleep?
So what I advise my patients is, number one, to stick to a sleep schedule. I ask them to sleep the same time each day, and then make the room a bit comfortable. So throw down the blinds or the curtains so that it will be dark, low light, and then good, comfortable pillows and mattresses for you to be able to sleep. And then also pay attention to what you eat and drink. So avoid alcohol, avoid coffee or tea just before you go to bed. And this will all help in terms of you eating. And then also limit your daytime naps. Some of my patients will tell me, I can't sleep at night, but actually they're sleeping more in the afternoon. So of course, this will all reduce. And the last one would be actually to indulge in physical activity, but not before sleeping, but earlier on, and that you will be able to sleep a good night's sleep.
Now, that was a very interesting conversation on metabolism, and I'd like to thank our guests for today, cardiologist Dr. Eduardo Yambao Jr. and endocrinologist Dr. Roberto Mirasol, for guiding us on this topic that we had. Regular health check is vital during this time, but why is it important to have a good relationship with our doctor and to get medical advice regularly? More on this when we return. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. You're watching CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, your partner in healthcare. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted many aspects of our lives, including our physical as well as our mental health. Now, earlier we talked about how the quarantine restrictions have affected our everyday physical activities. And as a result, our metabolism may have slowed, leaving us at risk of obesity and other medical conditions. This, among with many other reasons, is why you need to build a relationship with your doctor. Now, to tell us more about this is Dr. Gineth Bibera. She's the Country Medical Director from GlaxoSmithKline, Philippines. Now, as we all know, Dr. Gigi, this pandemic has undeniably impacted so many people in many different ways, especially the people's health. Getting your doctor's advice regularly can preempt the possibility of diseases arising. Doc Gigi, gaano kadalas ba tayo dapat mag-check up sa ating mga doktor?
The one who's saying those fears and the feelings of anxiety are really real. The best times, anytime or all the time, especially for patients who have existing health problems already. No, consulting with your doctor is always the best course of action when one is experiencing any symptom, whether mild or moderate, as it can be a sign of an underlying condition already that can actually jeopardize your health if not addressed as soon as possible, even for those actually without any, the one what we call comorbidities.
Now, of course, it is always vital to check in with your doctor kapag merong nararamdaman. Pero, Doc Gigi, bigyan natin ng scenario yung ating mga viewers. Kunwari, meron akong nararamdaman na mild or even manageable COVID-19 symptoms at home. Kailangan ko ba bang magpakonsulta sa doktor?
Oo naman, no? I mean, you know, there are a lot of, since we are in the pandemic, di ba, Dr. Freddy, syempre
Yes.
The symptoms that we should really be watching out for would be the COVID-related symptoms. And I think a lot of our audience know this already. Fever, cough, colds, shortness of breath, sore throat, loss of smell and taste with associated body aches and pains. Lang, even if the symptoms are mild, these symptoms are actually, there are common illnesses that would have the similar symptomatology. So in a way, we are not sure whether what we are really dealing with is actually COVID or not.
That's right. So marami talagang symptoms na pwede mag-overlap, ano? So it's best talaga to be able to consult with a doctor para sigurado at ma-minimize yung anxiety ng mga tao. Now, for those naman who are still nervous about face-to-face consultations, we want to remind you that telemedicine is here and it is readily available. Doc Gigi, at this time, ano, people do have a choice whether they want to do face-to-face or to do it online, to see consult with a doctor online. So tingin nyo, Doc Gigi, what is the best option right now?
It would really be the patient's comfort level at this point. That is the most important factor or consideration. It's really up to the patient to choose what works best for that patient. No, so apart from face-to-face, fortunately now, as you mentioned, we have other options to do consultations remotely, no, not face-to-face, and that would be through teleconsultations and through video consultations. Now, it should have its advantages, but again, whatever they prefer, the important thing here is that they are able to get timely medical advice for whatever symptoms they're experiencing.
For those who are interested and who have never tried teleconsult before, how do they go about this? Tell us how teleconsultation works and how can those interested gain access to it?
There are many ways people can avail of this. So first, they may ask if you already have your own family doctor, then you may ask your current doctor if they are providing this type of consultation.
Mm-hmm.
Or for patients naman who have like a health card membership, they can also contact their service provider. Now, if they don't have both, then they can call their nearest healthcare facility and ask if they offer teleconsultation or video consultation services. There are really a lot, no, in online, no, they can look for directories that they can look up online, which will really help them consult with a doctor.
Are there any things that our viewers need to consider before arranging a teleconsult with a doctor?
First, the gadget. At least a telepono, no? You have a mobile phone. And of course, it also helps to have a stable internet connection and an environment conducive for consultation. Now, they can also prepare a list para mas madali. No? They can prepare a list of questions already that they want to ask so that they can really maximize their time with their doctors and maximize the session.
Ultimately, whether through face-to-face consultation or telemedicine, checking in with your doctor every so often is key here. Now, how do you think this proactive mindset, Doc Gigi, will help the country's healthcare sector?
It's really like a change of mindset. No? We really need to teach these patients that first and foremost, the priority is their health and wellness. And that has to be ingrained in their minds already. And we should be doing away with self-medication, no? And in any symptom that we are feeling and experiencing, dapat isipin na natin, I need to consult my doctor. So the emphasis really here is for people to always take care of themselves. Again and again, we should be reminding them that by seeking, as you mentioned earlier, Dr. Freddy, timely medical advice for any symptom that they're experiencing, their doctors will be able to address an underlying condition as early as possible. And that way, in their own little way, they are potentially avoiding more resource-intensive treatments, in turn helping ease the burden on the country's healthcare system, which we already now are very much under too much pressure due to the pandemic.
Before we go, Doc Gigi, any tips on forming a good relationship naman with the viewers and their doctor?
No, so I leave our audience with the 3 points to keep us their mindset. The first, just a little bit of just to remind them again, take care of yourselves, prioritize your health and your wellness. Second, never ignore your symptoms. Third, well, yes, you always keep your communication line with your doctor open. Do consult your doctor early, especially now that you have been given options on how to do it, whether face-to-face or through teleconsultation. So as I always say, in this pandemic, anything goes. The only wealth that we have is our health, so do take care of it.
And with that, I'd like to thank Dr. Gineth Bibera of GlaxoSmithKline Philippines for being with us today. Marami pong salamat sa inyong helpful insights at very timely and practical tips for our viewers.
Thank you, Dr. Freddy.
Remember, it's never too late to get your health back on track. Work with your healthcare provider to come up with a plan that suits you. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and I'll see you again next time.
Ang pagbangon sang ekonomiya, dako nga faktor sa pagtibong sa atong pungsod sa pagkatubang sang ginatawag nga new normal sa pagamat-amat bawi kag panas sa mga